So good afternoon and welcome to the operators session for the Moving Communities platform. Okay, if you could just share your screen for me so we can have the first slide up. Fantastic, thank you very much. So this is the Moving Communities platform that we are going to share with you. Please note that we are recording this session and we will be sharing it via the webpage and the social media. I'll put the links to those into the chat box. Can you please keep your cameras on, keep your microphones muted so that we can have uninterrupted conversation from our panelists. If you do have any questions, can you put them into the Q&A box? We will do everything we can to answer those questions from the Q&A box, and we'll also add them to a frequently asked question list that is growing and will also be shared on the website so that you have that information. In a moment, we're going to introduce Mike Hill from LeisureNet, Utku from 4Global and Caroline from Right Directions. But before we do that, we have Kevin Mills and Emma Bernstein from Sport England. Over to you, Kevin.
That's great, thank you, Dave. So I'm just going to give a little bit of context before I hand over to the guys to go through the detail. So that's it, that's fine, that's the one I need. So the impact of COVID-19 on public sector leisure has further highlighted the importance of being able to evidence the value of the service to communities in terms of health, social value and economic impact. This was essential in making the case to government for financial support for the sector, but it has highlighted that the local and national data available currently is not of the quality and depth we need. So separate to the National Leisure Recovery Fund monitoring and evaluation requirements, Sport England will invest funding into moving communities, which will create a step change for the sector in terms of data and insight, which will create both locally and nationally the evidence base needed to demonstrate the value of public leisure and help us all make the case for support of this service. Why now? Well, we have the opportunity to secure the funds to make it happen, and sometimes you just have to grab that opportunity. We are very conscious of the stress and pressure the sector is under at the moment, and we have worked hard to reduce the burden on local authorities and operators and try to develop an automated system to take the brunt of the work. We have undertaken workshops and consulted with key stakeholders, including UK Active, Community Leisure UK and the LGA. All are supportive of the need for this work, but have reinforced the point about the strain the sector is under. It is a fine balance, but we believe this work will be essential in helping to meet the challenges to come, and we can't stand still. We realise not everyone is at the same stage, not everyone is at the same starting point. We are mindful of that, and the team will explain the detail of the Moving Communities project and how we will work with you to deliver it. But we certainly believe this will help local authorities demonstrate the case locally to portfolio holders and cabinet members to ensure they understand the value of the work that's being done. And it will help operators and trusts showcase the value that you contribute to communities and sometimes is overlooked at that level. Okay, Emma, over to you and the team.
Thank you, Kevin. Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Emma Bernstein. I've been working with the team on the Moving Communities platform for probably the last few months, and I'm just going to briefly introduce the members of the partnership that are delivering the product, and we'll be working with you over the coming weeks to get the platform up and running. So the contract is led by LeisureNet Solutions, very much leading here on the customer insight side of things and the customer experience survey that we'll talk you through shortly. Working with them very closely will be 4Global. Many of you will be familiar already with 4Global, and particularly their data hub, which is the largest repository of sport and physical activity data in the UK, and very much the basis on which a lot of the participation information on this platform will be collected. We have Max Associates on the leisure management and contract procurement side, very much our eyes and ears on the ground and supporting us with some of the use cases for the data. And Sheffield Hallam University providing their academic rigour around the platform and the data itself, but also the social value elements that we'll introduce to you shortly. Finally, we have Right Directions, where we're looking to, for a sample of local authorities and sites, integrate the Quest Prime assessments and those local authorities have already been identified and contacted if they're involved. But certainly Quest is something that we'll be looking forward to incorporating into the platform going forward. So those are our key partners, and I will hand over to lead us through the first part of the presentation.
Thank you very much, Emma. And hi, everyone. It's great to see everyone that we already know each other of, and the new faces as well. So in this section of the presentation, I'm going to introduce you the operating model behind the Moving Communities platform. And then hopefully when we have the demonstration of the platform later on, it will all come together in terms of how this operating model comes to life. So within the platform, what we are trying to do is build a full picture of the leisure services delivery in a local authority environment by the operators. So we have key data sets feeding into the platform, and there are 4 of them. Primarily, it's the participation data and the income and expenditure data, which you might be already familiar of through the recovery fund period. But also we have other valuable data sets feeding in for the Moving Communities platform, which are the customer experience data that will be coming from the customer experience surveys that will be conducted regularly, and also data about the service delivery that will be coming from the Quest assessments, which is specifically designed to support the recovery fund period as well. So the aim of the platform is to make the data entry as automated and as simple as possible for everyone involved, because we acknowledge any platform where you collect data requires that data to go into the platform, and the more manual that is, the more resource time it takes, and also it would be open for errors. So what we have created through the data processes is the automation of the data transfer, especially on the participation data side, from the leisure management systems of the operators into the data hub. In addition to that, on the financial side, we have also started working with the operators either to fully automate that process through links to their finance systems, or allow them to upload the data in a standardized template. So once it is set up, it can be done regularly without too much effort required or manual intervention. So all of this data comes into that green area, what we call our database layer, where we have the standards that are introduced into the system, both from a compliance perspective, so to make sure that all the privileges of the individual data controllers are respected, the data is coming in a secure way into this database, and also it is standardized against the sector standards. So when the data is coming from 100 different operators or 1,200 sites around the country, it is all standardized and analyzed in a consistent way. So once this data is collected and standardized, it's feeding into 6 KPI dashboards that are built into the Moving Communities platform. We will go into the details of this later on, but the aim here is to give a 360 view of the operations, from participants to visits and social value to finance, customer experience, and service delivery, being the 6 areas of KPIs provided through the platform. And then when we look at the different user groups, each user group will have access dependent on their rights to access the data. So Sport England and the sector organizations like Community Leisure UK, LGA, Active Partnerships will have a view of the national picture in terms of what's happening in the country, how are we recovering as a sector from COVID, or how are the financials looking like as a sector as a whole. Then we have a local authority view, where local authorities can drill down into their own local authority data, understand the participation or financial information coming from their sites within the local authority, and benchmark it against national averages from the platform as well. Likewise, operators have access to the platform from an operator's view, so they can see their estate, they can see all of their sites, and they can drill down to those sites, or they can benchmark their sites against the sector averages. It's very important to reiterate, at no point can any operator or local authority access any sensitive information or any even participation information from another specific operator, site, or local authority. So at all times, the benchmarks are provided at an aggregated and anonymized layer within the platform. So the next thing I would like to touch on is the key benefits of the platform for different stakeholders that will have access for all these different user groups. Because what's really important to emphasize here is this is not an exercise just limited to measure the effectiveness or more effectiveness of the recovery fund, but it is going much further than that. So for Sport England at the national level, it's about influencing the policy. It's national policy, local policy, and also making key investment decisions for Sport England and government into the leisure facilities. Today, as part of this lockdown period and the recovery period, but also beyond that in terms of as an ongoing exercise. And most importantly, it's about working collaboratively with local partners, so the decision making and investment decisions can be made much more based on data and insight rather than gut feel or based on historical decisions. However, on the other side of the spectrum, we have local authorities and operators who will be the primary beneficiaries of this platform as well, because for them, it's first of all about collaboration. So a sector working together in order to demonstrate the impact we are creating in local communities' life, not just in terms of getting them active, but beyond that, how it impacts a healthy, or it generates a healthy community as part of this working together. And also it is automating a lot of processes that the local authorities are going through, whether it is sharing performance data with the cabinet members or portfolio holders, or for operators, it is much more articulating the service delivery to their local authority clients. So again, bringing it back to that collaboration point. And finally, for operators, it's also a good opportunity to benchmark their performance across different contracts of theirs. So from an operator perspective, whether it is benchmarking against national averages or against their own operator, but different local authorities, it provides some great improvement opportunities through the use of good data. So how does that all come to life? Before I jump into the platform, I'll just share a screen from the platform as well. So this is a screenshot from our summary dashboard, which you will see later on, which basically provides the 6 KPI dashboards, the summary from them in one screen in terms of displaying you as an operator, the performance data from participants, throughput, finance, social value, customer experience, and service delivery. I'm not going to articulate too much on this one yet, because we will have a longer part of this when we move to the platform now. So thank you very much for listening, and I will now switch to the platform and give you a live demo from it. I hope you can still see my screen. So first of all, our Moving Communities team is designing and finalizing a specific website targeted at the Moving Communities platform. So this website will have all the information about the key objectives of the platform, the partners involved, and also a FAQ section in it. So it will provide some responses to any questions you might have going forward as well, the ones that are not captured in any of our sessions or so. So hopefully that's a useful resource for you. And also there will be videos from the training sessions or workshops we have organized as well in the website. So that way you can always come back and refer to those points while using the platform. There is a direct link from this web page into the login page of the platform. So when I click coming soon, it takes you to the Data Hub's login screen. Some of you who are already integrated with Data Hub would be familiar with this screen, and they would already have their logins. If you don't, then you will be provided with logins to the platform as part of this process, and we will be able to get you access into the platform. So today I'm going to log in as a demo operator that we have prepared for the purposes of this session. So you type in your password and it takes you into the DataOps profile page. In this profile page, as an operator, you can do a couple of different things. First of all, you will see the platform login part for the Moving Communities tool. So you can access it by clicking this image on the screen. But before that, on the left-hand side, you can see a section which is called the operational view. It's important to emphasize we are integrated with the Active Places database. So all of the facility information in terms of the different facilities an operator has and the specifications of these facilities are all coming from the Active Places platform. So in this operational view, we first provide you with a full view of your operator in terms of the facility mix you have. So how many swimming pools, how many sports halls, or how many studios you have across your entire estate. And on the right-hand side of this, you can see the operator structure with different regions, contracts, and leisure centers of your operator. So this allows you to structure your entire estate into the right groupings. And then when you access an individual site within your estate, what you can see is the full Active Places information that is about your site. So the location of the site, the basic geographical information, and also facility mix specific to that site. And at any point, you can click the individual pool, for example, and you can see this information about that as well. There is a direct link from the platform into Active Places team as well. So at any point, if you see anything that needs to change about your Active Places data, you can also make that request from the platform. So the Active Places team can update that information for you in an ongoing way. So that's about your supply information, overall information from your facilities. Then if I click the Moving Communities button, it takes me into the platform page where I'm landing on my account page where I can update my basic information like my passport, my name, etc. And then there is a user list available for you where you can click and see all the different users from your own operator. So this allows you to see both your operator users, but also your leisure center users. So you can also give access to your general managers from each site and also track their usage of the platform. So what it allows you to do is to see when they last logged into the platform and how often they use it as well. So from tracking usage perspective, it provides you with a good opportunity. So after you do this initial setup, there are three main sections: data entry, dashboards, and map within the platform. I'll go through the data entry section first, and then we'll make a pause and pick up a couple of questions, and then we will move into the dashboard section. So first of all, in the data entry section, obviously, as part of the Moving Communities, as part of the National Recovery Fund process, you have supplied some important information about your participation and finance data during the application phase together with your local authorities. The ones who were already integrated with the Data Hub, some of that data has been automatically provided for you, and especially on the participation side, and then you have complemented that with the finance information during the process. So going forward, it will be a similar process in the sense of you will be asked to provide participation information and finance information in an ongoing way. So in this list you have on the screen, what you can see is all the different sites of your operator with their management type, operator information, and local authority. What you can do in here is you can select an individual site. Like, for example, I'll go to one of my test sites. And click Edit Participants button. which takes me to the page. And this page is very similar to the templates you have filled during the application process. So what it allows you to do is on a monthly basis to see and enter participation data from the 7 main categories. So fitness, group workout, outdoor activities, sports hall, swimming lesson, and swimming activities on a monthly basis into the platform. If you are integrated with the Data Hub, you don't need to enter any information here. All of this information will be auto-populated for you going forward as well. And what you can do at any point is go back in time and actually see what information is inputted into the platform. So if I click the columns button in here, I can add historical data in here as well. And going forward, as soon as the month is completed, you get another column appearing here with the information coming from that month. So that way, as operators, you wouldn't need to, if you are integrated with Data Hub, you wouldn't need to enter any information. All you need to do here is to check your information, because depending on how you have been grouping your activities or how the integration works and many other things, there might be questions raised, or there might be things you would like to discuss. So at any point, you can contact us at support@datahubclub.com, and our team will be able to go through your data together with you and make sure you are all happy with the information provided in the platform. For the past 7 years that Data Hub has been on, we've been constantly working with operators to regularly review. So I should always remind that these are technical systems that are integrated. So in some cases, it's not even a single system, because we acknowledge some of your data sits in your leisure management system, some other data sits in your course management systems or other systems. So in certain cases, this can be more than one integration feeding data into the platform. So we acknowledge any question you might raise. Our team will be happy to go through it with you and make sure it is categorized the right way, and also the information is fed in a consistent way. And also, I should mention, going forward, if you are not on Data Hub, you have an option to download a template from the platform and upload your data into it through this standardized template, as you have done before in the application process. And at any point, if you are integrated, this process can move into the fully automated version. One important note about this categorization in here, obviously these 7 categories have been identified by Sport England, and all of our data in Data Hub, which is coming from the leisure management system, is matched against those categories. So this might be slightly different than how you previously reported to the local authorities, and this point was raised yesterday into the local authority workshop as well. So it's very important to mention that the consistency is across the whole sector now through this process. And if there is any difference to the previous reports they might have received from you in the previous years, it needs to be acknowledged that this categorization is the one that's going to be used in the Moving Communities platform going forward. And we will have a document ready in here that refers to each category and what's included in it. So I'll just go back to the list, to my list, and go to the finance part of the platform this time. So for the same site, I'll just go in it and click the finance information. So for the financial part, is again, you may recall from the application process, we have the income categories, different areas. Then we have the eligible expenditure categories, some of the categorization in here, and then other expenditure items. All of this data is again by site and by month. So when the platform goes live, then you will be asked to enter new information into the platform for all the months that is not in there. At the moment, you are seeing all the demo data in the platform. And in terms of how this data is entered into the platform, you have a download template option in here. When you click this, it downloads the template that you have seen before, and you can get all the data from your financial systems into this template and upload it back into the platform, which will generate these tables that you see on the screen. If you would like to change specific information in the platform, you can just click on it and you can update the information in here, or you can just select a row edit it, and update the information in here as well. So there are a lot of different ways for you to update this information as you go forward. Another key point in here is we started working with a number of operators that are already on Data Hub in terms of automating this process as well. So if your participation data is coming into Data Hub already through that automated integration, but your finance data is not, we would be happy to work with you to look at automating this data transfer through your financial systems as well. So for all Data Hub operators, that will be another opportunity. And we already did this with the initial couple of operators, so they won't need to enter any of this data going forwards manually as well. I'm already seeing a couple of questions before I move forward, especially in terms of that application process and some of the data updates you had to do. As mentioned earlier, these data differences you are seeing compared to what you were thinking that would go into those data sets might be related to many different things. It can be linked to a technical issue. It can be linked to how things are categorized. We have done a lot of operator sessions during this lockdown period to go through their data sets and make sure that this categorization and integration is working to its full accuracy. But for any operator who will have access to the platform as of 1st of April and in an ongoing way, we will be happy to work with you and your leisure management system to make sure that the pre-populated information is correct and accurate and how you would expect it to be. So hopefully that picks up a couple of questions raised in the chat. So I will now go back to the list section and just going back to what we presented earlier in the PowerPoint is participation and finance data is only the two parts of this, but also with the Moving Communities platform, we'll start getting more qualitative data from people's experiences of using your facilities into the platform as well. So now I'll hand over to Michael, who will present you the customer experience data input part of the platform.
Thank you, Utku. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm just going to run you through the customer experience survey. If you can pop that up on the screen, please, Utku. So a bit of background to the survey. We're incredibly excited about this opportunity. This is going to be, without doubt, the largest customer experience survey ever carried out of its kind. It's a unique opportunity, really, for the sector to get a complete overview of that customer experience. Probably over 1,000 sites are going to take part. We're hoping for an absolute minimum sample of 50,000, possibly up to 75, 80,000. And you'll be able to see the results of every single site that takes part, by site, by local authority, and obviously comparing it to the national benchmarks. So the survey is going to be carried out online, not surprisingly. We're going to we'll be sending out information over the next couple of weeks to operators and local authorities. And the target date for the survey to be carried out is approximately 3 weeks after opening. That's still to be confirmed, but that's our target. And we're going to be asking you, on behalf of your local authority, to put together a database of as many members or casual customers that you have email addresses that have opted in for email marketing, and to ping out a standardized survey invite, which we'll send to you. And each site will have a unique link. So to do this, you will need to be able to separate out your databases by site. And there'll be certain criteria which we'll ask you to adhere to in terms of how you select that data export and then email it out. The survey is very much positioned as a national sector Sport England survey. So you can see there the Moving Communities logo, the Sport England logo, and we'll be giving you some standardized introductory text, which will explain why this survey is taking part and why it's important that all your customers and members complete it. We've tried to keep it as short as possible. We're giving you as much notice as possible because we'd like to avoid any clashes that may occur with any surveys that you're carrying out yourself. So as I say, at the moment, we're aiming to start the survey first, second week in May, and to run it for 2 weeks, close it 2 weeks after we after we send out the initial email. And LeisureNet team will be monitoring responses, and we'll be able to let you know how many people have responded after the first week. The questions themselves, it's gone through extensive consultation, both in Sport England and also organisations in the sector. And we think we've come up with some incredibly valuable, about 12, 13 key killer questions. So I'm just going to talk you through these briefly, and they're divided up into 2 or 3 sections. First of all, one of the key points to note is that the survey will only be open to 16 years and over. So we'll be asking you to make sure that when you pull out the appropriate members and customers, that they're 16 years and over. We're going to be asking them if it's the first time that they've used this leisure centre, just to find out if this is their first visit or whether they've obviously been before in that 2-week period. We're then moving on to some fairly standardised activity questions. Now, approximately half the questions in this survey have been taken from the MBS questionnaire, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with, but half of them are brand new. So, for example, question 3, we've got a standardised activity question. Now, this one isn't obviously to establish what percentage of people are playing badminton, Group X, etc. You'll have much more accurate figures on that than we'll get from the survey. This is all about cross-tabbing, so we can look at the NPS for badminton players versus Group exercise. And we've then got a standardised mode of transport question there, which is a carry-on, gives us some continuation from MBS. The advantage of carrying on and continuing some of these questions is obviously we've got MBS data going back about 15 years with some of these questions, so we don't want to lose that longitudinal analysis totally. Thanks, Utku. You can just scroll down a little bit. So the next section is all about the customer experience, and we've got 4 questions in there. The first question is focusing on cleanliness. So we know from all the research that's been carried out over the last 12 months how even more important cleanliness is now and is going to be with people returning. So we've highlighted 2 key areas of cleanliness, changing areas and activity areas, and we're asking on the 5-point satisfaction scale as we used to in MBS. We've then got a brand new question, which LeisureNet has been trialling in some of our lockdown surveys over the last 12 months. So we call it, this is the confidence indicator question. So on a scale of 0 to 10, how confident or not did you feel in the COVID-19 related protocols in place? And this is focusing on their last visit. And the score for this, the indicator, will be worked out on the same basis as MPS, i.e. we'll be looking at the percentage of 9 and 10s and detract and minusing the percentage of 0 to 6s. So you'll get a score for that, so confidence indicator question, and it can range from -100% to +100%. We've then got the standardized overall satisfaction question, again exactly the same as previous MBS surveys. And then finally, we've got the NPS there, which I'm sure you're all familiar with by now. So we think that those 4 or 5 questions are the key ones that we need to focus on. MBS used to have about 20 customer experience questions, but we really just want to focus on the 3 or 4 killer ones. Thanks, okay. So the next section is all about the impact of the centre. And by this, we mean the impact of that their local leisure centre has on their everyday lives, but focusing obviously on their activities and their activity levels. So we've got 3 questions there, 9 to 10, which ask in the standardized way about the number of days that they've done 30 minutes or more of moderate to vigorous physical activity. So what we're about to establish from these 3 questions is what their overall activity levels are in the previous week, but perhaps more importantly, what the split is now between that which is carried out within the centre and those activities which are carried out outside of the centre. Thanks, Utku. And then just to finish off that section, we've got some new questions here where we're asking people to agree or strongly disagree with 4 statements. And we've come up with these statements to try and really find some interesting insights and things that may have changed, may have become more important over the last 12 months. So, for example, I didn't miss exercising at a leisure centre when it was required to close. Strongly agree, strongly disagree. I exercise more intensely when I'm doing an activity in an informal setting than when I'm in the centre. I prefer exercising at a leisure centre to exercising in a more informal setting. and the staff at the leisure centre provide me with the guidance I need to be active. And that last one is we put in because we know that particular sections of your users have really missed the staff guidance and motivation, particularly older sections of the population, and females generally have been missing that encouragement and motivation much more than younger age group and males. And then in the futures section, we've got 4 statements, which again, we're asking people to agree or strongly disagree with. So in the next 6 months, I intend to exercise at least once a week at the leisure centre. The leisure centre does not play a significant role in the lifestyle I want to live. I intend to exercise more often at the leisure centre in more informal settings, and I intend to exercise at the leisure centre more often than I did last week. And you'll notice some of these seem a little bit counterintuitive in the way they're positive or negative. And that's done on purpose, really, just to avoid people just going straight through them and clicking straight down with strongly agree or strongly disagree. So there is a purpose behind the way that we've positioned some of those questions in a negative sort of way. Thanks, Utku. Can we just scroll down a little bit more? Thank you. So just to finish off with, some of the data that comes from Data Hub, one of the areas of weakness that is recognised is ethnicity and disability status. So in our demographics section, we're asking both of those. And the really exciting thing is that we'll be taking the data from the survey and joining it with the data that we're getting from Data Hub to get a much better, more complete view of things. And we've then got some more of the standardized demographic questions, which will allow us to do some cross-tabbing, some filtering of the responses by SEs, by socioeconomic status, but also by people's IMD, which area of deprivation on a scale of 1 to 10 that they live in. So we can do some really useful drilling down. And I just stress that you'll be able to get not only your results, but for all of these questions, you'll be able to benchmark them against the sector, but also against some family groupings, which Utku is going to talk through in a little while. Thank you very much, Utku.
Thank you, Mike. That was great. So just to emphasize one point, so within the platform, you have that button that's already built in, which gives you the specific link to your survey. But we acknowledge there are some national operators that are on the call as well. So what we will be able is to provide you with the links for your entire organization, and you can distribute that centrally as well. So it's all about, I mean, going back to the earlier point about that collaboration. So the aim is here to get the data in the easiest way possible into the platform. So our Moving Communities team will be working with you to make that happen. In terms of the last part of the data that will go into the platform will be about the service delivery, as mentioned earlier. So it will be the Quest assessments, the Quest Prime assessments that is already integrated into the platform. So you don't need to do anything in this side of it. It will all be coming from the Right Directions team and their assessors work from the Quest side into the data analysis sections, which you will see later on. So before I move forward from here to the dashboards and how you will get access to the analysis of this data, I see a number of questions being raised in there. So Dave, Mike, I'll probably pass it over to you shortly so we can cover some of those questions before going back to the analysis section as well.
Thanks, Utku. I'm going to be handling the questions. Before I start, we have got an awful lot of questions here. So perhaps if I don't pick up your question, if it's data related, then perhaps we could put Chris Phillips' email or the address in there, Utku, for people to contact him direct. And if there's anything that's more admin or survey related, and I don't pick it up, then by all means email myself. And for those that don't have my email address, I'll pop that in the chat function as well. I'm just conscious that we've got an awful lot of questions here. I'm going to pick up some for you, for most of them, fortunately for you, Utku, I'm afraid. I'm going to pick up a few key ones and try and see what themes are in here. There's a few around data sharing agreements. Joe Cherrett, for example, is asking, will data sharing agreements be in place? Can you answer that one?
Yes, sure. So in terms of the data sharing agreements, the operators who are already on Data Hub have seen that and signed that before. That basically includes all the different data sets that are collected and integrated into the Data Hub, and also the protections, the privileges around that one. So it's a very detailed agreement that's been tested and signed by like over now 200 local authorities and 100 plus operators. So hopefully it will give you enough credibility and assurance about how your data is treated. So again, I just posted into the channel Chris Phillips' email address. So if there are any questions related to data share agreements or integrations, you can contact us direct in that email address.
Thanks, Suku. And also timescales for inputting data. When does the platform open, and when are we looking for people to have their data inputted by?
Emma, you want to pick up first, or you would like me?
Yeah, thanks very much. So the platform's going to open on the 1st of April, and it will remain open for the month of April. And during that time, we'll ask you to populate the application, the data that you didn't get into your application form. So December, January, February and March. Then we'll shut at the end of April, and we'll open again on the 1st of May. And we'll be requesting April's data, and it will go on like that. So open for a month, and we'll be requesting the previous month's data.
Thanks, Emma. Okay, I'm now going to try and cover off some of the questions relating to the survey. There's 2 or 3 which relate to this question of what is opening. And we fully understand this. I was just having a chat earlier with Emma about the fact that at the moment we're including, for example, cleanliness of changing rooms, and the changing rooms aren't likely to be open for those first 3 weeks. So I think we need to, it'll be about another week, I think, before we start sending out more details about the survey and the timelines. And we're constantly reviewing the timelines of the survey and how it's going to be positioned. There was a logic to doing it fairly quickly after people returned, i.e. 3 weeks after opening, in inverted commas, just because we thought it would be really useful for the sector operators and local authorities to get a pretty immediate snapshot of the customer experience fairly soon after opening. So I think actually that's picked off the opening. How long does the survey take to complete? That's a nice easy one. We've designed it so it takes less than 10 minutes for most people to be complete. Someone's asked, please explain LeisureNet's role in administering the questionnaire. So LeisureNet are the leader contractor on moving communities, which is a repurposing, retooling of the existing MBS contract, and we are leading on the research element side of it. So, for example, what we will be doing is we'll be sending out all the information relating to the survey, and we'll be sending you the link, the suggested wordings, and giving you some advice on who to be sending it out to, and then keeping you updated as to response levels, and letting you know when it will be shut, and obviously then talking you through how you can access the results from the survey. Just scrolling down, time evaluated. Yeah, there's some questions here about who's, this is a survey aimed at people that have come back, not people that haven't come back, just to be clear. So we'll be asking you to look at your database and identify those people over 16 that you can email out who have visited at least once in, say, the first 3 weeks of opening. A couple of questions here around the methodology, which we had yesterday. We really want to keep this to being online. People have asked about printing papers off, walking around centres, handing them out to people, and there's a few difficulties with that. First of all, there's difficulty of who's going to input it and the quality of the inputting. But the key thing really is yes, we know that an online survey by its very nature is going to be skewed and biased towards those people that are perhaps more digitally literate. But if we keep the methodology the same across the whole of the estate, then at least we know that bias, that skewing is standardized. So from the point of view of benchmarking and comparing your results against everyone else, it will be much more valid. If, for example, a whole bunch of sites said, oh no, we're going to print paper copies out and we're going to go around and hand them out and perhaps cherry pick customers, it's going to affect the ability, it will screw the whole national results, obviously, but perhaps more importantly, it will mean that it's going to be impossible to benchmark it. So yes, we know that online surveys have their limitations. It'd be much better, arguably, as we used to do with MBS, put face-to-face researchers in over 10 days and do it much more of using a random sampling technique. But we just can't do that at the moment. Physically, we can't do it. And this is the only way that we can implement a survey of this size so quickly after people have come back. And just to stress, this is only one of 3 surveys. We're aiming to do at least 3 surveys over the next 9 months, some of the questions which will carry on, some of which the questions will change. Sorry, I seem to be hogging it all here, but I'm getting a lot of questions about the survey, so I'll fly through these. The option to customize a question at the end of the survey, yes, that's still there. It's something I didn't mention earlier, but there is an option. You need to talk to your local authority, and if between you can agree, an important question that you'd like to put at the end of your particular survey. We can't do it on a site-by-site basis. It needs to be done across the contract, across the local authority. Then if you can agree that and let us know what that is, we just need to obviously check that it's a reasonable question to ask. The survey is only for leisure centre members, but obviously we want to include casual customers if you've got the email address, etc. for them. Okay, I think, unless anyone else. So I got one from Phil here, Phil Rumbelow, that you might want to answer, Emma. Is the whole concept aimed purely at organisations who have a council leisure contract, or are independent leisure trusts, etc., like us, also included? Do you mind picking that one up? I know we've had long conversations with CL UK, haven't we?
Yeah, absolutely. So anybody at the moment who has received money through the National Leisure Recovery Fund has been approached around the Moving Communities platform, and we've also approached a number of in-house run services to say equally would they like to join. If there are sites outside of that and operations that would like to be part of the platform, absolutely, that it is open to them, and we would like to have a conversation about including them in it. So yeah, I'm happy to pick that one up outside of the session for anybody who's got a request on that.
Okay, I think we've covered everyone. There's just one interesting one. Someone's asking about, yes, with all of the questions, we're going to try and pick up all of the questions and answers and put them in or add them to our FAQ on the Moving Communities website. And also, I'm not sure if Dave mentioned, we're recording this. And obviously the reason for that is we'll then be sending out a link to the recording. So if you haven't managed to pick everything up, or if you've got colleagues that you want to share it with, then there will be a recording of this going out. Okay, I think we better, conscious of everyone's time. Do you want to carry on now, Udku, and I'll keep an eye on questions coming through?
Sure, Mike, thank you very much. No problem with that. So now we have seen all the different parts of the data entry section. We are moving to the more exciting part of the platform, which is much more about how do we use this information. So how do we use this data to generate some key insights, which should hopefully help us both as a sector, as we referred earlier to in the benefits, and also in our conversations, direct conversations with our local authorities and operators working together. So with that logic, we have built what we call the dashboard section of the platform. The dashboard section consists of 6 individual dashboards, which is participants and below, and then they're all linked to a filtering section. And also we have the summary dashboard, which is summarizing the full information coming from these 6 different dashboards. And then later on, we'll also see the map application. So if I start with the summary dashboard, the summary dashboard is aimed at giving you a one-stop picture, a single view from all the 6 different dashboards by selecting one KPI from each dashboard. So here what you are seeing is the participants, throughput, finance, social value, customer experience, and service delivery dashboard links. So each of these KPI boxes are connected to the individual dashboards and one selected KPI from each section. The information here is configurable. So when we go to the filter section later on, you will be able to see how it can be configured to your preferences. But at the moment, the way we have configured it for the purposes of this presentation is where, as an operator, you can select a single site and you can compare it to the average of all trust data, all leisure centers, operators managed by a trust in the platform. You can change this to compare a single site to your full operator data. You can change it to one single site against the national averages. So it gives you a lot of flexibility in selecting your benchmarks. So here, the KPIs we have selected is from total participants, the throughput year-over-year change. So in an example in here is we have selected the month of October. You can actually see how much of your throughput you have recovered as a single site and what has been the recovery rate of the sector or sites managed by a trust. So that way you can actually understand your performance and benchmark it against the sector as well. On the finance side, you can look at the subsidy per visit and you can see if this is higher or lower than the sector averages. And likewise, on social value, it's looking at the social value per person generated in your sites as well. In customer confidence, consumer experience, this is about the confidence indicator, so how confident people are feeling to come back. And in service delivery, we are providing you with a view of your overall Quest score and how that compares against the trust averages. So again, the time frames here are configurable, so you can change the time frames for the platform and look at the relevant data that you are interested in benchmarking. I'll go into each of the individual platforms, so we will be able to look at it in more detail. But just a note, on the top right of each KPI that you see on the screen, there is always an I button, which basically tells you what that KPI means. So in here, it's about the total number of unique individuals using the centers, including both casuals and members, is what we are referring as participants. And for each KPI, you will always have a time frame which is presented below that KPI on your screen as well. So that way it makes it very clear what you are looking at and what you are comparing. In addition to what you are seeing on the platform, there are also tours that are built in, interactive tours. So as you see on the top of the page, you can click on that one and you can get a full tour in terms of like how you can steer within the platform and go to the different sections as well. So there's a lot of resources available to you from a training perspective. So when I select an individual dashboard, it directs me to the individual dashboard that is linked to that summary dashboard page. So I'll go through those dashboards quickly now without spending too long on each of them, but just to give you a feel of it. The structure of the dashboards are always the same. So on top of the screen, you will see 4 KPIs that are relevant for you as an operator and to what you would like to compare. And the 2 colors are reflecting the 2 filters that are applied in the platform. So everything on the KPI boxes that you see with the dark blue is what I've selected for my site. And then everything that's the light blue is for the trust averages in this scenario. And each dashboard has their own colors linking back to the summary dashboard. So we are in the blue dashboard right now. And when we move to the throughput, we will be moving into the red dashboard. So below those 4 top KPIs, which you are seeing as total participants, female participants, 65 plus, so older adults, and low-sec participants, which are the top 4 KPIs based on the leisure services delivery guidance. So these are the sector KPIs, so to say. You can see the actual numbers you are generating and see it, how it compares to the overall sector figures. And you can also see the breakdown of that into different demographic segments. So you can see your gender breakdown and compare it to the sector. You can see the age group breakdown, and you can, for example, in this example, my site is attracting much more younger people to come and use the facility compared to I'm getting less participation from older adults from compared to the sector numbers. Then afterwards, you can also see the deprivation layers. So people who are coming from higher deprived areas. So my facility in here is not getting that many people compared to the rest of the sector from high deprivation areas, but I'm getting particularly higher participation levels from low deprivation areas. This can always be, of course, linked to the locality and where your center is based on, but it gives you a good view. We also have information about disability and ethnicity. We acknowledge this information is not very well kept in the sector, especially in their leisure management systems. That's why these two pieces of information are coming from the user surveys that are conducted. So that's the ones that Mike was presenting earlier. So just the disability and ethnicity breakdowns will be provided through that data set. Everything else you see in here is your leisure management system data. And if you have other course management, etc., that's also feeding in there. So from here, I jump into the throughput dashboard. So on the throughput dashboard, we have total throughput, month-over-month change, year-over-year change, and average visits per month. That are the top 4 KPIs. Again, this allows you to compare your site against the trust in here. I mean, obviously, if you are comparing actual numbers, it might make more sense for you to pick up individual sites, so one of your sites against each other. If you are looking at more percentage-based KPIs, like, for example, month-over-month change, you can look at your individual site's performance and benchmark it against the rest of the sector and see if your percentage increase in participation month-over-month is better or worse than the sector. From a throughput perspective, in the detailed graphs, what you can see is the comparison of your actual throughput to the sector throughput comparisons. Again, this gives you a feeling about whether you are recovering in good speed or is there anything else you can to hit those higher figures that are seen in the sector. We also have an activity breakdown, so you can see the distribution of your activities or throughput into different activity segments. So, for example, for this site, what I'm getting at is a much smaller percentage of my participation is coming from fitness and gym activities compared to the sector, but I'm doing particularly well in my outdoor programs and get much higher throughput, and likewise my swimming lessons throughput is higher than the sector. So again, depending on your priorities as a business or between your different contracts, you are able to do these benchmarks. You can also benchmark 2 of your own contracts, so you can select 2 local authorities. If you are a national operator operating in more than 1 local authority, you can select those ones and see how you are performing differently in those different parts of the platform. So from throughput, I'm moving into the finance section. And again, just to remind you, we have the information buttons on the top right, which explains what those KPIs mean and how they are calculated. Now, this time we are looking at the 4 key performance indicators in finance. So income per visit, operating cost per visit, subsidy per visit, and percentage cost recovery. So these are all ratios, obviously. So they are calculated using your finance and participation data inputted by yourselves into the platform. I should remind you, everything you see on my screen is demo data. So sometimes if the numbers are not making huge sense, that might be related to our demo entries into the platform. You can also see the income breakdown by area. So how this total income is distributed across different activity types, and also your expenditure by different expenditure items that you can break it down into. And we also have a comparison of your average staff hours by month with the relevant benchmarks you are comparing it against. I think in all of these, there are an endless number of use cases really you can generate from, some of which is linking back to what we discussed earlier in the benefits part. I mean, it can be you as an operator reporting to your local authority your numbers on a regular basis and showing them how you are generating an income, like income figures in different outcome areas. So it can be linked to your reporting, or it can be linked to how you get more people active in your leisure facilities. So everything you've seen so far in the first three platforms, participants, visits, and finance, were linked to your participation and income expenditure data, and that has been, so to say, the hard KPIs in our terms. The next three you will see is referring much more the softer elements of your delivery and actually looking beyond the pound signs and just participation numbers on its own. Before I jump, I'm just catching up with some of the questions in the chat as well. In terms of the information to be exportable, everything you see in the platform is exportable. So you have graphs that you see on the screen that you can export as an image, or you can download as a chart, or if you see any table in the platform, you can export that into Excel as well. So there are multiple ways for you to generate automated exports from the system as well. So the next dashboard I am going to is the social value. I mean, some of you on the call might be very familiar with the concept of social value. Some of you might be quite new. So I'll try to give a little bit background for the ones that are quite new to the concept. Obviously, for many years, there has been an important part of our sector conversations about how physical activity has an impact on other parts of our life, whether be it the living a healthier life or increased life satisfaction, or for younger age groups to be more successful in their studies in school, or having higher starting salaries when they start and join the workforce after the university, or for younger male demographic segments, especially targeted at reduced criminal activities for people that are involved in sports. So with that regard, for the past 7 years, we've been working with Sheffield Hallam University, who has done the research back in 2014 initially, and regular updates after, with Sport England and DCMS, in evidencing the impact of physical activity in those different areas. So ourselves, with the data from the Data Hub, together with Sheffield Hallam's research, and also Experian bringing in their socioeconomic data into the same document, has been all brought together in order to generate this tool, which we call the social value calculator. So what social value calculator allows us to do is, by looking at your participation data and socioeconomic profile of the individuals coming and using your facilities, we are able to quantify the benefits in terms of the cost savings to the health services by the risk reduction established in different health conditions by getting people active. It's been a very important message that's been consistently given to the sector in the especially past few years, but now with also local authorities having visibility to that, hopefully as a sector we will be much more much more capable to talk about the huge impact physical activity and sport is making. So this can be in the area of the cost reductions in health, or increased life satisfaction and happiness for the subjective well-being element, or for example on the educational attainment, referring to the increased success in school years and also this higher starting salary that we mentioned earlier, or for the reduced crime element, how we are saving to the authorities dealing with criminal activity, especially for the young ages of the children. So here we are only displaying some high-level summary figures from the social value calculator. So like total social value generated in the last 12 months and average social value per person, and a high-level breakdown into the different outcome areas. But of course, there is a lot of detail sitting on the back of this. So operators who are already using social value calculator might be already familiar with this concept. They can drill down much further into different demographic segments and question this data on a regular basis in different time frames as well. The reason why I'm staying on this one a little bit longer than the other pages is we get a lot of questions about the methodology and the calculations behind this. There is documentation available that describes the research that sits on the back of the social value calculator and regularly updates with the further evidence coming from the Sheffield Hallam's work. And we are about to launch just the next iteration of the platform together with Sport England and Sheffield Hallam report that has been published in October. So hopefully this will be a very live part of the platform that is constantly fed with new research and evidence coming from the sector. I'll leave it in here, but if there are any questions, we will always be pick that up. We will pick that up later on. So again, this is a high-level starting point for the operators and local authorities to discuss social value. Hopefully there is a lot of detail that will sit on the back of this. So now I'll stop in here and pass it to Mike for the customer experience part, and Caroline will do the service delivery dashboards. And Mike, over to you. I think you are mute.
That's only the first time I've done that in the last 12 months. Leave that, if you will. Thank you. I was just scrolling back through the questions just before I do this, just to see if there was anything that important I missed. And there's probably a good point here from Barry at Inspire All, which I'd like to ask. Perhaps you could have a response to this, Emma. Barry's saying this is good, but unless it includes activities in the contract that are outside of leisure centres, it doesn't give a full picture, e.g. theatres, parks, off-site sessions, community centres, day trips, golf courses, etc. I mean, I think we all recognise that these things are playing a really important part in not just physical activity and well-being, but what's your view about the extent to which moving communities can or should cover these outside of leisure centre activities, Emma?
I think that's a great question, and absolutely, Barry. I think we're painting part of the picture here about activity. It's something I think we have an aspiration to expand the platform to cover, and club usage, etc. in a place. I think that's something that we could make go out fairly quickly. But some of those other items that you've listed there again would be really useful to list. So yeah, we're showing you the first go at moving communities, and I think it's a great base on which we can build and present a picture of activity in a place rather than just the leisure centre. So thanks for the question.
Yeah, and Warren's just come in. Warren Smythe's just come in. I think we all realise this, Warren, that this is only a starting point, but it's taken us a long time to get to this stage where we're going to be gathering this amount of granular, detailed data on pretty much the whole of certainly the English estate. So hopefully everyone recognises that this is a starting point. It's not where we want to end up in terms of moving communities. Okay, we'll come back to questions in a little while. Let me just go back to what I'm meant to be talking about, which is the customer experience survey and the reporting dashboard for this. So very similar really to the other dashboards that Uku's already talked to us about. So this is where you come to see the results of your customer experience survey. And what we've done is we've taken 4 key performance indicators. We've put them at the top. So you've got the cleanliness of activity areas, the cleanliness of changing areas. We've got that confidence indicator, which I've already explained, and your NPS. And you'll very easily be able to see the scores per site against the score for the whole trust or the whole local authority, or whatever parameters you put in. I think we'll be talking about how you can change parameters and filters and look at things like family grouping in a little while. And then very simply, scrolling down, we've got each question numbered there as per the survey. On the left-hand side, you've got the responses in percentage terms and numbers. And over on the right, you've got it showed graphically with, again, a benchmark there of the demo site, for example, versus the whole of the trust score or the whole of the local authority score. Thank you, Uku. I don't think it really needs any more explaining than that.
Thank you very much, Mike. And I mean, I'll come to the filter section. Hopefully this will give the visibility in terms of how you can change those comparisons. So without further ado, I'll switch to Caroline on the service delivery part. and that's coming from Quest.
Thanks, Aku. I would like to say leaving the best till last, but I think the platform's absolutely fantastic. I wish when I was a centre manager, we had this level of data to be able to compare ourselves. It's phenomenal, although difficult time for everybody, we understand. Quest is going to be a valuable part of the dashboard going forward, although we do appreciate there's quite a lot of sites that aren't going to be in Quest Prime for a little while, or Quest, but we're delighted that the numbers are starting to increase again and people are joining the scheme again, which is fantastic. Last year we wrote a new scheme called Quest Prime, based basically on recovery from COVID-19 and dealing with the pandemic within our facilities. And that's been rolled out over the last year, and quite a lot of people have done those assessments already. The modules within the new assessments are not anywhere near as taxing as Quest Entry or Prime were. It's very operational, and for the moment, we're not looking at long-term business plans or goals or targets or huge environmental projects. It's now about the here and the now and recovering from the last year. Quite apt really on this being a year today. The modules that we're covering are cleaning and hygiene, operational management, which is all your social distancing and routes and access and all that sort of stuff. Then one on community engagement, which is how we're reaching out to our members and non-members. Then a module on programming, which is all about what's going in what space and how you're making the best of the space you can for the program you've got. Managing the team in terms of making sure that they are back, they know what they're doing, they know about the standards that are expected, and that they're going to be there to help drive your business forward in every single way that they can. Then we've got the customer journey, so that's basically from website, telephone calls through to car park, into the facility, around the facility, how they got on, and then they'll be doing calls and website as well. And then the last module, which unfortunately is going to always be a given, I think, as long as we run Quest, is the health and safety declaration, the compliance deck. So have you got all of those statutory requirements in place that you have to make sure that you're meeting the legal statutory requirements? That unfortunately hasn't gone. And then for finally, people who have received the funding, there will be an unscored module. Doesn't affect anybody's overall score on the recovery plans, how you're getting on with your recovery plan that was submitted to Sport England, how you're getting on, how you're coping with it, whether you're achieving the targets that you set. So those are the modules that are going to be completed within Quest Prime, and that all sits on the Data Hub platform already on the Data Hub. So for those of you who have had Quest in the last couple of years, then you will be able to see all your scores of all the detail on the platform and the benchmarks and comparisons, etc. However, we are pulling key data through from those Quest assessments through to this platform. And as you can see, they are the overall result, the score for cleaning and hygiene, and please note saying scores, I don't mean scores, I mean bands. It's banded, unsatisfactory, good, very good, and excellent. I hasten to say that nobody scored unsatisfactory in the last year, which was fantastic. The industry had really upped its game when we reopened last year. Long may that continue. And then we've added customer journey in there as well with the bandings of that. So as you can see, those are comparable. And then further down, Aku, if you can just scroll down a little bit. We've pulled out specific questions which we think are key for local authorities as part of this dashboard, and probably for you as well, and you can compare yourself nationally with some key questions from cleaning and hygiene, from operational management, managing the team, and customer journey. Those are the ones that we believe are significant benchmarks and indicators, and hopefully we'll be able to share all of this data going forward with the powers that be, and really demonstrate to the world that our industry makes a massive difference. Good luck to everybody for reopening, and if you've got any questions on Quest, please put those in the chat, and we wish you all the very, very best in the next few weeks.
Thank you very much, Caroline. That's been really useful. So we have shown you the 6 dashboards, and in each dashboard there is a lot of detail, and we acknowledge we have very limited time to go in detail through each of these. So hopefully both the videos that we will record about each dashboard and also the documentation we will generate will help you with that one. But also just to mention the point again, our Moving Communities team will be here to work with you and answer your questions after the meeting too. Before I move to the filters and map section to close off, there has been just 2 questions raised which were linked in terms of information asked there related to the social value. Both Richard and Tom, you mentioned there are a lot of activities you are taking that's not necessarily captured in your data, in your leisure management system regarding the impacting their local communities. That's very important, and that's all great. And as Emma mentioned, we have the ambition to extend this beyond the activities coming from your leisure management system. But in addition to that, I think what the platform will give you is an initial conversation point with your local authorities as from the participation happening in your leisure centers, how can this be measured as a national measure? And then in your localities, you will have a lot of specific interventions where the data can be used to support that. So that's that element. In terms of filtering capability in the platform, I'll just spend a couple of minutes on that one because it gives you a good opportunity to use the platform in an effective way. So our Moving Communities platform is linked to 2 filters that are built into the dashboard section. So in your first filter, you can basically select as an operator only your own operator, obviously, and then within your operator, you can select any site you have, so you can make your figures appear in your KPI benchmarks from your individual sites, or you can select a local authority within your operator, and you can actually select a specific part of your operator's different like local authority client views, so you can look at the same thing as your client will be looking as the summary numbers. In terms of time frames, again, you have flexibility to choose start and end date of your analysis, so you can configure it according to your requirements. On the right-hand side, you see the second filter, which allows you to do some benchmarks against your own data. So you can either select the national benchmarks, which will give you the national figures from the whole sector, or you can select a management type, and within the management type, you can select a specific thing like commercial management, local authority, and trust, and you can benchmark it against that one. So this allows you to use the platform in a way where the benchmarks can help you with your insight getting from the platform. What you can also do is you can select, again, local in your second filter and select another site of yours. So this will allow you site-by-site benchmarking as well. So just in terms of the level of detail that you see in the platform, so obviously, just to mention the point, we have 6 areas of your operations where the number of KPIs provided in the platform will be limited to what you are seeing in here. And we acknowledge, depending on your requirements, whether be it on participation side, on finance side, or on social value side, there's a much further detail you can go into. And this is by no means to replace any of these tools that you are using, but actually it's much more about to give you an overview of everything coming together at the highest level and have an advanced conversation with your local authority partners and other stakeholders. So the final part of the platform is about mapping functionality. So all of your leisure management system data comes in with the postcodes and location information of your individual members. So this way we are able to map out the participation data coming from the sector. Obviously, what you are seeing on my screen is at the moment the full national map. So depending on your levels, if you are logging in as an operator, you only see your sites. If you are logging in as a local authority, you only see the sites that are within your own local authority. So here, what we allow you to do is to filter for a single site. I'll show you the view from the single site. So you are able to see your own site and also the surrounding facilities around your site because of access to the active places data. So that's all public information in terms of the dots you are seeing on my screen. But then the participation data is all coming from your site only. So this way you can see the distribution of your members and where they are coming from within your local authority. You can make the data appear as a ward level, and you can add ward boundaries as well. This way, as an operator, you can identify areas where you are getting a higher proportion of your members, and also areas with further opportunities to bring in more people into your facilities. Just to emphasize, this is the users of the facility, so it's not about who pays, who doesn't pay to use your facility, but it is much more about who is using your facilities actually and where they are coming from. An important part of the platform is where you can add additional data sets on the background. So one thing you can do in here is, for example, you can see areas with top 20% deprivation around your facility, and you can see how well you are converting from these areas. So identify areas with higher deprivation and currently you are not converting that well, might be a priority for your business, or to work with your local authority to identify that need. And then in terms of this data set that sits on the background of the platform, you can also make use of many other open data sets available in here that are built as context layers. So if I close the participation layer and add, for example, I mean, if my priority is dealing with more black, bringing in or getting my sites to be used more by ethnic minorities, I can select a minority in my area and I can understand where the density of this demographic segment is highest around my facility. Or likewise, you can use the age-based filters and you can look at where you have the highest proportion of people living around your facility that are 0 to 17 years old. So both demographic segments, ethnicity, deprivation, and like healthy assets and hazard indexes and excess weight are the type of data sets that sit on the back of this. So coming back to the earlier point you made in there, depending on your local priorities, you are able to use these data sets and put in targeted interventions in place in a much more data-led way. And hopefully the platform will support that for you and your local authority partners. So I'll stop here to make sure that we have the last 5 minutes saved for any Q&A, but hopefully this gives you a good overview of like what the platform will be doing and how we will be supporting the usage of the platform and the data entry sections in it. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Utku. So I've got 5 minutes left. I've made a note of a few questions that have come up and some underlying themes, perhaps we'll call them. Emma, first of all, a couple of questions to you. One more general, one more specific. Let's do the specific one first. Someone's asking about Quest, and I guess, you know, do people have to do it, and what is the cost to operators of doing that? Perhaps if you can start off talking about the pilot that we're doing, and then Caroline can perhaps finish off with you know, following on from that. Emma first. Mike,
would you mind if I just jumped in?
Yeah, no, please go ahead, Kevin. Yeah.
Just because I think the, I mean, I've been watching the chat, and thanks for everybody's contributions, and it's good to see people asking for kind of other things be added into this, and we hope that that will be possible in the future. But we had to start something, and it was based on the back of the NLRF funding, and if we can get some step change data and insight based around the core leisure provision initially, and then build on it, that would be terrific. The issue that's coming through quite regularly in the chat, though, is this issue about the timing. So we haven't got much choice on the timing in terms of we need to provide some data input into the NLRF and provide some information into Treasury for to demonstrate the impact of the NLRF on reopening and recovery. That's a requirement from them anyway, so we haven't got any choice. But from our point of view, then it's essential that we can see what's happening. I can understand where some people are making the point, well, everything's not going to be open, so you're not going to get the great figures that we're going to get through as more activity opens. But to a certain extent, I don't need that. I need to understand that the recovery is hard, it's difficult, we've still got a gap, because those are the points we're making, and we're arguing for further ring-fence funding. So actually, an opening period, if we can get information for an opening period that demonstrates how difficult it is, the financial pressures that still is bringing, that's actually going to help us at a national level. So we know everybody's busy. We're trying to make it as easy as we possibly can in terms of the data feeds, but actually gathering that information to demonstrate what the reopening looks like, what a sort of partial recovery reopening looks like. Well, some of the social distancing is still in place, and we still might see changes to what they're predicting in June in terms of the social distancing. It's important for us to see that figure, see that picture. So I can sense that, you know, it would be advantageous to delay it in terms of the pressure you guys are under. But if we can get that basic information through, it will be really important in terms of trying to make those points. I just wanted to chip in on that, Mike, because I can obviously see from the chat that it's an issue that's cropping up on a number of occasions. But I'll dip out now, and I'll let you direct the other questions to Emma.
No, thanks, Kevin. That was going to be my next question, actually. But so you've covered it off amicably. You've covered it amicably, but very well as well. Emma, do you want to just cover off Quest and how that's fitting in with things in terms of the pilot and the cost of anyone that perhaps wants to do it that's not in the pilot?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Mike. Just to say that a number of authorities have been randomly selected from the portfolio that was receiving National Leisure Recovery Fund money. We've approached those and offered them the opportunity to get involved with a Quest Prime assessment, and for those that were able to, we have awarded some money towards that. If there are local authorities or operators who would like to participate, then absolutely, we can increase that number, and I'm very keen to do that. So, I'll pop my my email in the chat, and please do get in contact. Caroline, do you just want to pick up on the wider point around Quest?
Yeah, Quest Prime is likely to carry on for the next 6 months. It will adapt and change, obviously, as the legislation and guidance changes. We're fortunate with Quest that we can change the guidance and the questions very quickly now on the Data Hub platform. Quest itself, if you are interested in going for it, as Emma said, please get in touch with Emma. I'm sure she'd love to hear from you. And if you did want to add additional facilities in, the cost is £1,100. I didn't mention earlier on that it does include a full mystery visit and pre and post calls as well, and checks on the website. So that's the price for anybody interested. If you are keen, either give us a ring in the Quest office, ping either me or Emma an email, and please, if you want to go via the website as well, the application form and everything is available there too.
Thank you, Emma. Just another quick one for you on cost to operators and moving communities in general. Someone asked, is there going to be a charge for any of this? I did privately message them back saying not to operators. Do you want to just explain how that's working in terms of the costs for providing this service?
Yeah, certainly. So local authorities, when they received their Recovery Fund award, in their funding agreement, they had two figures detailed. One was the fund itself and the award that they were getting out of that 100 million pot. And then, as Kevin mentioned at the beginning, Sport England have also provided some money outside of the Recovery Fund money to local authorities to enable them and you to have access to this platform. So the funding has gone directly to the local authority. We have emailed them, and I've just seen a comment coming up about access logins. We have emailed them saying, for those that you would like logins, please give us their emails and their names, and we can make sure they obviously have that access, and that's both across the local authority and the operator. So please do speak to them about getting access to it, and give them obviously your email and name, and we can make that happen.
Brilliant. Thank you, Emma. Okay, we're going to wrap up now. 1 minutes past 3, so we're only 1 minute over. I'd just like to, just a couple of key points on the survey that I noted. We will take away some of the questions, concerns around time of the survey. I'm sure we'll be discussing that as a group. And secondly, I did pick up that people are very interested in the attitudes and perceptions of the non-returners. So that's something that we may be able to look at as well going forward. But thanks everyone for spending this hour and a half. Hopefully it's been useful for you. Really appreciate your time. Just to stress what Dave was saying, that all the Q&As we'll be taking from this chat and trying to put answers against them. They'll be up on the website, which should be launched hopefully in the next week, movingcommunities.org. Also, there's various social media, which Dave is managing, again, with the same tag, so Moving Communities. So please register for any of those. That'll be the best way of keeping up to date. And look forward to working with you all on this incredible project. Thank you.